Welcome to Intentional Divorce Insights. I'm Leah Hadley, certified divorce financial analyst, accredited financial counselor, and the founder of Intentional Divorce Solutions. I'll be your guide through the complexities of divorce, finance, and emotional wellness. Join me as we uncover practical tips and empowering insights to help you navigate your divorce with clarity and intention. Welcome back to Intentional Divorce Insights. It is my pleasure to introduce our guest today. This is Dr. Mort Orman, who is a board-certified internal medicine physician and a 40-year anger elimination, stress elimination, and emotions mastery expert. And I know a lot of us who are going through big life transitions can use a lot of support in this area. So I am thrilled that he's here. He has written 23 books on how to eliminate anger, stress, and other unwanted emotions without using drugs, relaxation exercises, or other traditional management techniques. He has also been the official sponsor of National Stress Awareness Month every April in the U.S. since 1992. Dr. Orman is the creator of Angry No More, a 10-session quick anger elimination program, and Quick Emotions Mastery, a 4-hour online learning program to master anger, guilt, fear, worry, frustration, and sadness. His newest book, Dr. Orman's Life-Changing Anger Cure, is now available on Amazon, and you can learn more about Dr. Orman at his website, Doc Orman, DocOrman.com. Thank you for being with us. It's great to have you.
Well, Leah, happy to be here. Actually, since it's we're in the middle of National Stress Awareness Month right now. So it's something I created over 30 years ago, and it's been going well every year.
Fantastic. Perfect timing. So how did you get into this work?
Well, I was a physician, and when going through medical training, internship, residency, and the first few years of my practice, I mean, I had a lot of stress, I had a lot of anger, I had a lot of anxiety, I had a tremendous fear of public speaking. I would have never agreed to do anything like this.
Okay.
It would have been really just, I would have been a basket case back then. So I had all these problems, and I was trying to get rid of them. And I mean, I was pretty good at solving most problems I faced in life, but these stress problems and emotions problems, and then I also had a lot of relationship failures one after another. Because I didn't understand my emotions, didn't know how to deal with my anger and all that kind of stuff. So I ran into a lot of my own personal problems that I couldn't solve, and it was frustrating. And then I'm taking care of patients. You know, as physicians, we quickly recognize the angry patients from the not so angry patients in our practice, and we follow them over time, and you get to see what happens to the whole group of patients that you follow. And you know, you quickly see, as most doctors see, the angry people in your practice have more health problems. They have more heart attacks and strokes and high blood pressure and other illnesses. And then they come in, they tell you about their divorce, or they get addicted to something, you know, or their kids won't talk to them anymore. You know, you see this train wreck associated with anger, and you're sitting there with your own anger. So I said, I don't want to end up like that, you know, like a lot of my patients were. And so that drove me kind of get involved in personal development work, where after a while I had put some things together and got some insights into what was going on with me and emotions and relationships also. And was able to solve those problems finally. Was able to really cure my anger problems, cure my, obviously I'm here, cure my public speaking fear. And my wife and I just celebrated our 40th wedding anniversary. So I cured that, you know, relationship failure problem as well. So, and it's been great the last 40 years compared to, you know, the earlier part of my life, where I had all those problems. And I've been helping people ever since I discovered how to, fix my own problems, to share that information with other people over the last 4 decades. So I've been privileged to be able to do that.
Well, that's fantastic. And it's great, too, that you have the experience of really understanding the emotions and how they impact your life, both personally and seeing it professionally. I think that gives you a very unique perspective on things. I'm curious, what are some of the harmful effects of anger during and after a divorce?
Well, firstly, a lot of times anger can lead to the divorce. You know, when you don't know how to deal with your emotions, anger in particular, but other emotions too, that can be part of the problem that led to the arguments and fights and hurt feelings and all the stuff that eventually had people say, "That's it, I'm done." And then you go through divorce, and of course, there's all kinds of things that can make you angry when you go through divorce. People behaving badly, doing bad things. You got lawyers involved, you got judges making decisions, you've got other ancillary people affecting your life, affecting your kids, affecting your future. All of that can get people very angry. And then your anger can generate anger in your ex and vice versa, and the lawyers, kick in and do their thing, and stir up the pot. So, and then after the divorce, you're still usually going to be connected in some way, particularly if you're co-parenting, with your ex, and you're going to be interacting, and there's still going to be that lingering anger that keeps popping up every time you're in the presence of your ex, or you see a picture of your ex, or somebody's talking about your ex. You could get triggered with anger again, and chronic anger is just not good for us. It's I like to think of anger in two big buckets. There's the unwanted anger, and there's wanted or good anger. Anger that's beneficial. And I would say 80 or 90% of the anger we experience is unwanted and unhelpful and unhealthy in many ways. So it can affect our health, as we talked about. It can affect our sleep. It can affect our feelings of self-worth. When you can't control your emotions and you can't stop yourself from getting angry, you don't feel so good about yourself,
Absolutely.
compared to when you know how to do that. So, and it causes all kinds of relationship problems. It's not just your divorce, but whatever your next relationship's going to be, or whatever other relationships you have in your life, friends, coworkers, bosses, things like that. If you don't know how to handle anger in relationships, it's going to cost you in terms of the quality of those relationships, and some of those relationships may dissolve for one reason or another. So it has lots and lots of, not to mention the fact that you can, get into legal trouble. You can, if you get angry and you act out and you hurt somebody, that's
Sure.
your problem. Your kids can be impacted by your anger. So it's not a good emotion most of the time. Now, every once in a while, it's good, and sometimes people need to get good and angry before they take action, and that may be beneficial kind of anger. But once you've taken the action, you don't need it anymore.
That's right.
It doesn't have to linger, and you'd be better off without it. And whatever else you have to deal with, you deal with. But it's better to deal with those problems in life, or those relationship or even divorce negotiations, or ongoing interactions, without having all that anger coming into the picture and mucking things up.
Such an important point, right? Because our judgment is really clouded when we're feeling angry.
Yes.
And especially when it comes to divorce negotiations, you really want to be able to approach them with a clear mind.
Yes.
Yeah. What are some of the main things that people misunderstand about anger?
Well, I think the biggest thing, and remember, I was a medical doctor, so I was well trained. I had 4 years of college, I had 4 years of medical school, 3 years of internship and residency. Plus, I had studied psychology on my own, and actually took some psychology programs after medical school. So I was very well educated, and I did not understand my emotions. I misunderstood my emotions, just like everybody today. You turn on the TV, you scroll social media, you see people getting angry all over the place. They do not understand what's causing their anger. They think they do. They think it's all the behavior of other people that's making them angry, or the behavior of the government, or something outside of them that's making them angry. And not to say that isn't a factor, but what's really going on is our brain is creating the anger, and we don't understand how that happens because it's invisible. You literally, unless somebody shows you what the process is going on in your brain when you're angry, you would not figure it out on your own most of the time. So that's something that I, fortunately, again, doing personal development work, I eventually figured out what my brain was doing every time I got angry. And once I knew the mechanism, which isn't really complicated, by the way, but once I knew the mechanism, then I could say, okay, now I know why I'm angry. Now I know what I can do to defend myself against what my brain is doing, how it's making me angry. So our brain is, one of the things we don't understand is our brain is constantly filtering everything before we experience it or see it or interpret it. Our brains, millions of years ago, realized that there was too much information coming into our senses, just in terms of volume. So the brains had to figure out how to sort of chunk things down, filter things out, reduce the amount of information coming in to only that which was important to keep us alive or to achieve our goals or whatever we were focused on. So the brain got very good at filtering and leaving stuff out and only presenting to us, our awareness, that which it felt was important to us. So that's our brain's been doing that all along for millions of years, and ever since we've been alive, it's doing it every day, all the time. And all emotions come from several filters, the ways our brain tells us to look at things that happen. And when you stack those up together, and you believe what your brain is telling you to believe, then you're going to get the emotion that goes along with that. So there's three primary filters for anger, which most people are not aware of. And they're very simple. You don't have to be a genius or a psychiatrist or anything like that. So the first filter is that the way we look at things, the brain tells us to look at things, is somebody did something bad and wrong they shouldn't have done. So there's a negative judgment about somebody's behavior, or it could be a thing. Your car could malfunction or something like that. Somebody's doing something it shouldn't be doing. Unjust, unfair, wrong, unconscionable, horrific, however you want to label it. There's a negative filter about what they did. Then there's a second filter, which is as a result of their negative behavior, somebody was hurt or harmed or negatively impacted or could be negatively impacted. And then the third filter that generates anger is it's a filter of blame, but it's what I call unilateral blame. So it's very narrowly focused. We only are looking at, and our brain only lets us look at, when we're angry, the behavior of the other person or the person that we think did the bad and wrong thing. And it blocks out any other causes that might have been involved. So if we played a role, it won't let us see that right away. And if other factors played a role in that person's life, we'll only just see what they did or didn't do. And we'll use that to judge, and blame. And so when you get those three filters, and by the way, people should write those three things down. You only need 6 words to write these down on a sticky note or an index card or on your cell phone. Bad, wrong, negative impact, unilateral blame. That's how your brain makes you angry. It gives you those 3 perspectives on whatever happened, right? And it tells you they're true. And if you believe it, then which most people do, then you're going to get the emotion of anger. Now, if you have another emotion like anxiety, for example, that also has 3 filters that cause the emotion, but they're different. So each emotion has its own sort of footprint or its own formula for how the brain creates the emotion. It makes us see things and believe things. And when we do, then we get the emotion. Okay? And a lot of times, most of us have had the experience of getting angry about something because we believed what our brain was telling us. And then later on, we found out, oh, that wasn't quite true. Mm-hmm. I assumed this, or my brain told me this was going on, or this person was doing something for this reason or motive. And it turns out I found out later on it was completely different. And then your anger is, because in that moment you find out that what your brain was telling you was false, your anger disappears. So that's kind of the secret for how you eliminate anger rather than manage it. When you manage it, you're just dealing with the symptoms. But if to eliminate anger, you got to know what's causing it, and it's those 3 filters. And remember, they're invisible. So you need a little cheat sheet like I just gave you, all right, where you can pull it out when you need to remember what those 3, and after a while you'll have this memorized as to what they are. But in the beginning, you'll have to practice a little bit in remembering what's causing your anger. But and it doesn't matter. Your anger is caused by those 3 filters. My anger is caused by those 3 filters. If you have an ex, their anger is caused by those 3 filters. If you have kids, their anger is caused by those 3 filters. Anybody who gets angry anywhere is getting angry because their brains are doing the same thing and telling them, look at whatever happened through those 3 filters and believe they're true. And the brain's also saying, and don't question it. Don't question what I'm telling you. I'm your brain. I wouldn't lie to you.
That's a good point, though. And especially, I think, when people are going through the divorce process,
yes,
they're very quick to respond in an angry manner.
Well, we all are because these brain mechanisms are conditioned and they're automatic. They're knee jerk. We don't think those thoughts.
Right.
It happens like instantly. We perceive through those filters. and it just looks like that's reality. And if that's reality, then we feel justified in being angry.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. The problem
So
is
what?
if you start digging in and asking, are each of those three things true? You'll often find out that a lot of times one or more of them is missing critical information, or got things wrong, or distorted your view, or gave you or maybe you judged somebody unfairly to be doing something wrong when they really weren't, or not to the degree that you thought they were. There's all these mistakes that our brain is making, in terms of judging other people's behaviors. That if you really start digging around, you'll find them, but you really have to start asking the questions to do it.
Sure.
Yeah.
So why do you think that men and women have such a hard time dealing with anger during and after a divorce?
Well, there's just so much stuff that's there to be angry about. There's so much bad behavior from a lot of different parties. You've got people who are incentivized to act badly, the people incentivized to stir things up, and lawyers in particular have no fidelity to the truth. They can say whatever they want. They can make up all kinds of false accusations, accuse you of things, bring charges against you for things that you didn't do, and that makes people crazy when they're
Sure.
falsely accused. And then you've got spouses, getting angry with each other and then wanting to punish each other, and then each one feels, innocent, and they're being unfairly, victimized by the other. And then you got kids in the middle, and bad behavior about how kids are used, by one party or another. So, you got judges and making decisions that you may not agree with. There's so many things, and the emotions are so high. And the people involved who are supporting folks going through the process usually don't understand emotions either. So they can't really help you deal with your issues. I've had a couple divorce coaches come to me and ask me to teach them my methodology, these three filters, and how you use them to make your anger go away, because they realize how they want to be more helpful to their own clients that they're working with, because the anger is so hot and heavy, that they really feel a need for, if they had the tools like I have to help people work through their anger issues and get past them, then they can make a huge impact on their lives, the lives of their kids, and on their next relationship they're going to go into, and stuff like that. So, yeah, it's the reason why we have a difficulty is because we haven't been taught to understand how our brain makes us angry, because it's invisible. It's very easy to see all the bad behavior that's outside of us. That's not invisible. We see those causes or those triggers, but we can't see is what's going on, what our brain is doing, and how it's causing us to judge those and interpret them. That's making us angry. And until you have those puzzle pieces, you don't have a chance to get free of your anger. You can tamp it down. You can run 5 miles. You can punch a punching bag. You can do anger management stuff, but you're still going to be angry. It's still going to be stirring you up and maybe interfering with your sleep or affecting your choices and things like that. And also, if you get into a retribution type, framework where you feel wronged, and now you want to, get back at somebody, and that's going to just create a spiral of events that's just going to bring more and more anger into your life.
Sure. And I love how empowering it is to think about eliminating anger completely,
Yes.
rather than just managing through it.
And that's another misconception people have. People don't think that's possible.
Mm-hmm.
They think the only thing they can do is manage anger, because that's what they've been told,
Right.
But if you start playing with these three filters like I've been talking about, and you start examining your own brain's functioning when you're angry and questioning it, you will discover that, oh my God, I can make my anger go away just by realizing my brain was tricking me.
Right.
And then when it happens, when you do that and your anger just is gone, you go like, oh my God, you really can, you can make anger go away, and we've all had the experience. We've all, like, for example, one common example I use is, we've all had situations where we've made arrangements with someone to meet us at a place and a time, and it told them it was very important they be there. We were depending upon them for something, transportation or whatever. And we make sure we're there plenty early, and we're there, and the time comes for them to show up and they're not there. And a couple minutes go by and they're still not there. and we're starting to imagine all kinds of scenarios, and our brain's telling us, oh, you shouldn't have trusted them, they're not responsible, they didn't take it seriously, they didn't, you get all this stuff going on and it's making you angrier and angrier, and then they show up a few minutes later and they tell you what happened. They were very conscientious. They left a half an hour early. They got caught in a massive traffic jam. They couldn't get out of it. And as soon as you understand, you get those missing pieces of data that you didn't have, that your brain didn't have. As soon as you understand what the reality was versus what your brain was telling you, that they were just irresponsible and you shouldn't have trusted them in the first place, then your anger just goes away in a flash. We've all had that experience. It's just we don't think we can do it on command or on demand when we want it, when we want to be free of the anger, but you can. And the process is what we just talked about. You understand the 3 filters, you remind yourself what they are, and then you start questioning them. You start interrogating them, and you try to figure out where they may be incorrect or have blind spots, have left out critical stuff or stuff you didn't know. Or that you maybe assumed, and then you'll find when you do that, oh my God, that my brain was not giving me the whole story.
I think this is going to be super helpful for a lot of people. So I really appreciate you taking the time to share this with us, Dr. Orman. Yeah. I know you have a free resource for our audience. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, I have a PDF, a free PDF that you can download. It's called The Best Anger Elimination Method You Can Find. It's basically,
excellent.
Well, it gives you more information. It gives you some information about anger, more so than what we've talked about. It goes into more detail about how I coach people in my coaching programs, when I help them, go through like a 10-session program to really just completely change their relationship to anger so they aren't prisoners of their anger anymore. And then at the end of it, there's a little blurb about my book, which people can get, which also goes into more detail than what we've talked about today on this whole 3-filter thing and the process and all that, how you use that information. And you get that by going to theangersolution.org. That's theangersolution.org. And you can also find out about me through the website that you mentioned, Doc Orman, DOCORMAN.com is my main website.
Fantastic. And we will include those resources for you all in the show notes, so you can make sure to check those out, take advantage of the free resource. Check out Dr. Orman's book, especially if you really are struggling with anger right now. These are great resources where you can really proactively do something about it and really, really have a positive impact, not only on your own life, but your interactions with others as well. So Dr. Orman, again, thank you so much for taking the time to be with us today.
Oh, it's my pleasure. Thank you, Leah.
Absolutely. And for our audience, we look forward to seeing you next week.
Thank you for joining me on Intentional Divorce Insights. It's a privilege to share this time with you. I hope each episode offers valuable guidance to navigate your journey. If you find our content helpful, please leave a review to help others discover the benefits of intentional decision-making in divorce. Until next time, take care and continue to embrace your path with intention.